Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom. I'm Shosh Bedrosian, spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Prime Minister's office. I'll take a few questions after a couple of very brief points to share with you. Just make sure you put your questions in the chat of this Zoom with your name and your outlet. It is Monday, October 27th, and today is day 752 since Hamas decided to launch a war on Israel, kidnapping our people and murdering hundreds. Today marks exactly 2 weeks, 14 days since our hostages returned home to Israel and reunited with their families. 14 days since they were freed from the chains, the starvation, and the torture Hamas inflicted on them. A day that marks the start of the rehabilitation journeys. Their stories of survival are harrowing to hear, repelling forced Islamic conversions, eating one bite of pita a day while their captors feasted, the beatings, the torture, and being kept in cages for nearly all of their time in captivity. The Prime Minister heard their stories. He looked into their eyes as he made a commitment 2 years ago to bring them all home. Israel has committed to this ceasefire plan for more than 2 weeks now, as did Hamas. Hamas has violated the agreement and not returned all of our hostages. Israel has only received the bodies of 15 of our 28 deceased hostages, and for the last 5 days, we have received nothing from Hamas. Broken promises and commitments. Hamas is still a terror organization whose only reason for holding our murdered hostages is to further torture their families. Hamas committed to President Trump and other Arab leaders' plan that they will comply to this plan, which includes phase 1 to release all of our remaining hostages. Hamas knows where they are located, and there is no other option but for them to be released back home. I mentioned in yesterday's briefing that an Egyptian technical team is now in Gaza to help search for the remains of our deceased hostages. The team will bring in more equipment to help the retrieval of the hostages, including tractor-type vehicles. The Red Cross, the Egyptian technical team, and a Hamas person have also been permitted to enter beyond the IDF's yellow line position in Gaza under close IDF supervision to identify the location of our hostages. Hamas kidnapped them and murdered them. Israel demands the terror group locates them. Next to the election results in Argentina, Prime Minister Netanyahu congratulated President Javier Milei on his victory in yesterday's elections. The Prime Minister expressed his deep appreciation for President Milei, who has allied his government to the state of Israel and the Jewish people, and who has stood up against those who have slandered this country. The Prime Minister said true leaders defy the odds in pursuit of a great cause, repeating the Israeli military motto, "Who dares, wins." Prime Minister Netanyahu is scheduled to have a phone call with President Milei later today to congratulate him on his victory. I'll now take a few questions. Joel Pollack from Breitbart News, can you confirm that Pakistan, Azerbaijan, and Indonesia are sending troops to Gaza as part of the International Stabilization Force? So what I can tell you on this is that in terms of the future of what this International Stabilization Force might look like, details are still being worked out on that. I will echo the words of Prime Minister Netanyahu and say these conversations are happening and they will be announced at a later date once these details are ironed out. But in terms of that, we are working in partnership, in close coordination with President Trump and his administration as part of the ceasefire plan that we have committed to and agreed to and also upheld. Adam Parsons, Sky News, do you accept that Hamas was being truthful when it said previously that it could not locate all the bodies, and will you allow the Rafah crossing to open? So, Adam, like I have said in the past, Hamas is a terror organization. For the last 14 days, I have stood up here and I have told you that Hamas knows the locations of where our hostages are. So I continue to reiterate that same sentiment, like I just said in our briefing. Hamas knows where they're located, and we are demanding for them to be released and to be returned. So this Egyptian team that is going in is helping us speed up the process. Remember, 14 days ago, actually even a little bit longer than that, between 16 days ago, Hamas committed to a plan that we're in right now to release all 48 of our hostages. And we are waiting for 13 deceased hostages to return back home. We had 28 deceased hostages in total inside of the Gaza Strip. We're demanding for the release of the remaining ones. And like I said, Hamas knows where our hostages are located, and we are wondering why they're not being returned on time. Andre Lombard from the BBC, you mentioned that a person from Hamas joined the Egyptian team to search for the remaining hostages. Is it just one individual, and how was that negotiated? What I said in the briefing is what the answer is to that question. Jean Paul from PBS News, following the to and from and the vote on the annexation of the West Bank, what is the official government position, please? Jean, we have released a statement on this last week, so you can go back to that statement. You can find it on our X page. Omer Bekin from NBC News, wondering if the Prime Minister's office can please respond to fears in Gaza that the yellow line drawing the current bounds of the Israeli military's withdrawal in Gaza could become permanent. Can the Prime Minister's office provide any comments on whether this boundary is expected to become permanent and address the concerns that it will? So in terms of this, for the foreseeable future, Israel will have overall security control of the Gaza Strip. We will ensure that another October 7th will not take place again. When it comes to the yellow line, this is part of the plan. This is what we all agreed to, and that is where our IDF troops are now redeployed to at this moment in time. Okay, this is a follow-up question. Actually, I'll take this from Lior Soroka, and I'll get to the follow-ups afterwards. Can you confirm that Israel allowed the United States to operate drones over Gaza, as reported in the New York Times? The United States and Israel are in full coordination with each other under this plan, and we have had long discussions. Of course, we've had visitors from the Trump administration over the last week, many visitors, as you know, including Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. We've had Jared Kushner, Vice President Vance, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio here. So in terms of what is happening on the ground inside of Gaza and above ground, we are in coordination with the Americans. Sky News, Celine, when will the Israeli government allow journalists unrestricted and independent access to Gaza? If there is a policy change on that, I will let you know. Okay, from Adam again, following up on the clarification, are you now confident that you will now be able to reach the deceased hostages? Of course, we are hopeful. We are optimistic that we can find our hostages, but remember who took our hostages. It was Hamas on October 7th. Remember, these deceased hostages were also alive on October 7th. They were murdered either on October 7th, on that horrific day, or they were murdered in captivity, with the exception of one soldier who was murdered and kidnapped back in 2014. We are seeking for the release of all of our hostages at this point in time, and we will continue to do so. It has been 2 weeks. We have upheld our side of this agreement, and we are demanding that Hamas is upholding their side of the agreement as well. They committed to releasing 48 of our hostages. Why am I standing here 14 days later plus, and there are still 13 deceased hostages of ours that are in captivity? And this is from Jean again. Yes, there was a statement last week, but as you know, ministers have commented, including President Trump and Vice President Vance. So as of today, what is your position, please? It's the exact same position that we have laid out last week. Those are the remaining questions that I see in the chat. Of course, if you have any other questions, you can send them to us here at the Prime Minister's office. Thanks so much.